It's a horrible day outside as well, but sometimes I like filming more when it's shit outside because then I don't feel bad about not being outside. I got 2 deliveries today, so I got baby some stuff in the Stephen's Day sale on Beyond Retro, so loads of vintage little dungarees. And I also got a care package from Trua Hair for my hair loss. Vitamins, shampoo, conditioners, elixirs, the scalp massagers, a silk pillowcase, a hair wrap. So today I wanted to film a little sex Q&A. I don't feel like I've done one in a long time. It's not related to sex, but if anyone has bunions, and it's such a horrible word, if you don't know what a bunion is, it's not what it sounds like. It's when your toe bone starts to go in the wrong place. So my feet basically are going crooked. Like my big toe was turning in like this. So after I gave birth, Jason got me these like bunion correctors as my push present because I really want to fix them. And it's also sore sometimes. So I got these things that you put on your toes because sometimes, yeah, it hurts if I'm walking around a lot, and I do love walking. And if I'm not wearing like supportive enough shoes, it's a real old person thing to say. Wear these little toe correctors on my feet, and then hopefully my toe is going to go straight. It's disturbing sometimes looking at my toe and it's going crooked. I did inherit it from my mother, and the way her big toe is like crossing over her second toe. So I did get bunion correctors and I was wearing them all day yesterday, and initially when I first got them it was so sore to wear them, but now it's getting a bit easier, so I think it actually is correcting, but it's going to take about a year or so to actually help. But if anyone has any other tips on how to correct your bunions, do let me know. And my skin has gotten so dry because when I get anxious, there's so much serum in these that after I put the face mask on, I just keep the packet there beside the sink and then use up the rest of the serum. Like it lasts probably a week or 2. It's more than just a face mask, if you know what I mean. You're getting loads of product out of it, and it is so hydrating. But anyway, when I'm anxious, I like scrub my face in the shower. It used to be that I'd like stress shave my whole body. When I was younger and a teenager, I'd like stress shave every part of literally every inch of me. Like I don't even have hair on my thighs, but I like shaving my thighs. I've shaved my face once out of stress. I have one chin hair that comes down, a really long brown one, but it kind of gives me a bit of character, so I like to keep it. Yeah, so I have been like stress scrubbing my face, and now my face is all like scaly and dry. Oh, okay. I got this claw clip. It's a green suede one in Claire's because I went to Claire's for Cora's Christmas present, and it's really healing my inner child because when I was about her age, I was obsessed with Claire's. So now I can just like go into Claire's. I can spend money willy-nilly because I'm an adult. I'm allowed to do that. That's one of the perks of being an adult. So one of the questions was how to be intimate without having sex. And as you know, I did have an episiotomy, but I also had a forceps delivery. So that kind of makes my healing process a little bit more difficult than just getting an episiotomy on its own. When the forceps were inside me, I was literally dragged down the table, and I suppose I didn't relate the two in terms of like how extra long that would take me to heal from that. I just thought, oh well, other women have gone through it, so surely I'll heal at the same pace as everyone else who's given birth. Obviously that's not true. An organ almost came out of me from the bottom, and then I got an infection and all these other complications. So I thought by now that I'd be like full-fledged, like, oh, I'm probably gonna get pregnant again by accident, haha, I'll be having sex so much, you know? It's just still sore. My vagina is basically shallow. I don't have vaginismus, but I imagine it's what vaginismus feels like, is what my vagina is like right now. Oh my god, it's so cold. Okay, Missy, you have some gunk in your eyes.
What?
Okay, how to be intimate without having sex. So I've had to kind of reevaluate me and Jason's love life. To me, I never actually experienced, well, not with Jason anyway, and I black out my past relationships and then I get flashbacks sometimes, but I can't really remember what it was like in some of my old relationships, like what our sex life was, how many times we had sex, or how I felt when we had sex. Anyway, so all I can think about is relatively new in terms of me and Jason's relationship, and we never have come across. We're nearly together 2 years now. We've never gone through like a rough patch in our sex life. So this is kind of like the longest. Obviously we're still like, it's pretty young in our relationship, still kind of in its infancy, I suppose, and we've never gone through a dry spell in our sex life. Like, to me, the honeymoon phase is like when you're fucking rabid for each other and you can't stop fucking riding each other. But obviously it's not that we don't want to have sex with each other, but we physically can't. It's much easier to feel intimate with your partner if you are just having sex with each other. So when you're not having sex with each other, it opens up a whole new door of possibilities of how you can love each other in different ways. For me especially, a lot of how I feel loved in relationships is feeling desired and a lot of that is feeling sexually desired and my partner wanting to have sex with me, to not actually physically being able to have sex, then intrinsically I don't feel sexy anymore for some reason. Especially when you have a baby, I don't look at my body as my own anymore. My body is my baby's, especially if I'm breastfeeding. My sole purpose at the moment is feeding and keeping a child alive. So that's functionally how I see my body. I would never see it as like a pleasure vessel or something that deserves to have pleasure, because it doesn't feel like that at the moment for me. Even when Jason's like giving me compliments and telling me I'm sexy and being like, oh, you're such a sexy slut, blah blah blah, I almost like get turned off by myself or get the ick by myself, and I'm like, I feel ashamed of my body because I don't want it to be seen sexually anymore, because all I see myself now is a mother. And I don't know if that's to do with like the Madonna whore complex either, that as soon as I've had a baby I have to be really conservative. Giving into what people expect of me is like being really conservative and only thinking about, you know, family. And oh, all of a sudden I'm, even though I've clearly had a baby and that's how you make babies, is to have sex, all of a sudden it's like I'm supposed to be celibate now and, you know, pray to God and wear a high neckline and fucking don't show my ankles or whatever. So we have had to explore all these new ways of being intimate with each other without having sex, and it's a way for me to like, I want to be able to feel loved without having to feel sexy at the same time. I think especially that's so poignant in a woman's life, where the only way we can feel desired or feel loved is that we're inherently sexually attractive. That's just not the case at all, especially with my relationship with Jason. It took me a long time to even realise that he loves me for things that are outside of my huge tits and my huge ass. It is true what they say about the whole like foreplay starts as soon as sex ends. Now that Jason's home a lot more and he's taking on almost all of the domestic labor at the moment, except for obviously feeding the baby, I look at him like washing up or, you know, cooking me dinner, and I'm like, yeah, you dirty little slut, you wash those dishes. That has helped our relationship so much more as well, because the delegation of tasks in the household can really put a dampener on a heteronormative relationship, because you end up just playing into your gender role. Because especially when you just have a baby and if you're breastfeeding, it's so hard not to take on everything, because you feel this insurmountable amount of pressure and guilt that you should be taking on the whole world after you have a baby. And that's not in terms of just the domestic labor as well. Like I was literally like, I need to start a business now, I need to write a book, I need to go back to college, all in the space of like 1 week after I gave birth. I felt guilty for being bedbound after having an episiotomy, and I thought that people were going to think I was lazy. Now that he has like taken a lot of that pressure off me, it's like really helped me feel more intimate with him, because if there's like a gap, there's a disparity in the amount of work that you're putting in terms of the relationship, and that is included in the domestic labor. Like your relationship is part of that, domestic labor is intrinsically a part of your relationship as well, and it's how you become a healthy partnership. So once that like balanced out for each other, I felt so much more open to being loving to him, and it just helped our relationship so much more. At the same time, we still can't have penetrative sex, so we've had to like explore a different way of like being intimate with each other, and I've kind of had to relearn. I felt like a virgin again. I felt like an insecure teenager. I felt like, you know, when you're a girl and you just hit puberty and your boobs are just coming in and your nipples are a weird color and they're still kind of inverted, you're just starting to get hips and like kind of extra just extraness. You're getting like extra body around your hip area, and it's just like your body preparing for reproduction, I suppose. But you feel really uncomfortable in your skin because it's just happened in such a short amount of time. And the same thing happens with when you first go on the pill and your body changes. It feels like it changes completely overnight. It's kind of the same thing where I didn't recognize my body and I wasn't comfortable in it yet. So until then, I'm not really in the headspace to be having sex because I don't even know my body yet. So to be intimate with each other without actually having penetrative sex has been like a whole new learning experience, where I've had to basically start from scratch, because I've had to learn how to feel pleasure and not feel shame in this new body. I kind of forget what it's like to have sex for the first time, but I feel like now this is like me having sex again for the first time. That's exactly what it feels like. But being intimate without actually having penetrative sex, like we always make sure to give each other long hugs. Long hugs, I think, are so underrated, and especially it's helped because we're on the same page, where we know that we're not going to have penetrative sex because we can't. And I suppose it's really hard for people sometimes to understand that in relationships where there's not a significant enough reason as to why you don't want to have sex. It only works if you actually physically cannot. And that's probably helped us, where it's like when you're pregnant and you can't drink, people are much more accepting than you just saying you don't want to drink. It's like, if you don't want to have sex, people think they can change your mind or that you'll eventually come around. Whereas if you were both to have a mutual understanding as to, we're not going to have penetrative sex, but we want still to be intimate with each other. It's like that song that went viral on TikTok where it's like, oh, he kissed me just to kiss me, not to take me home. I'm quoting TikTok songs right now. A lot of what has helped me in my learning about sex, learning about intimacy, and learning about not even penetrative sex, but other types of sex, oral sex, being intimate with each other. A lot of what was helped me is Beducated, and they sponsored me, what, I think over a year ago, and I've still been using them since then. And they have, it's not just those courses, they have over 100 courses, like learning your body, how to recover back from maybe a traumatic experience in your body, getting in tune with your body. There's a course on tantric sex as well there. I found that it has helped me so much kind of explore the world outside of just penetration, because it can teach you how to be intimate with your partner without just having like in and out willy vagina sex, you know. And I do have a discount code, it's Keelan, for 40% off a yearly pass. And it's such a nice safe space, online safe space for people trying to learn about sexuality and intimacy, regardless of your gender, age, sexual orientation, or even your relationship status. Like, it's not just for people in relationships. There's whole segments on the courses of how to pleasure yourself, being in tune with yourself as well. I found that has really helped me feel sexy again without having to just like, I feel like just having sex is a real easy getaway or something, and it's kind of like sex is great. I love sex, I love it so much, but it can be a form of escapism to like get out of insecurities, or to be like a quick fix and feeling good about yourself, because it's like a form of validation. And because I'm not getting that form of validation, I need to find other outlets in our relationship to feel validated or seen, or to be seen as desirable or sexy. So that Beducated has really helped with that, because to be honest, when I realized I couldn't have sex after 6, they tell you that it's like, oh, you take 6 weeks to heal and then it's gonna be, everything is fine. It's been over 4 months now and I still can't have sex. So it has been a real help, because there's no information out there. Like, they don't, when you leave the hospital, they're like, okay, now this is how you're gonna have sex, and this is all the changes that are gonna happen to your relationship. Obviously, it's great, all the information you get about you and your baby, but no one tells you about the other things that are, the other huge changes that are gonna come in your life after that, especially in your relationship, the dynamic of your relationship. It could make or break you, but if you want it to last, especially if there's a child involved, you most likely want it to work. And intimacy is a huge part of that, and it's so imperative in any relationship to be intimate. And that's just not having sex with each other. I don't think sex is hugely important, but intimacy, comprehension, compromise are the most important things that come from a relationship to make a relationship work. I really feel like I'm getting a hang of like being intimate without just having penetrative sex. Even, for example, like, it's tiny little things that you wouldn't even notice. For example, if one person's pushing the boogie, you can't hold hands, you know. It's like little things like that. So I found that I either hold on to, if Jason's pushing the boogie, I'll hold on top of his hand or link his arm in some form. I like to be touching. And I think a huge thing that Jason has been really good at, but I'm not so good at as either, because having a baby really speeds up the process of relationships. Like, you get out of the honeymoon phase a lot faster. Huge thing that has kept us kind of like, kept it exciting and kept it on our toes a little bit more is flirting. And Jason's really good at it. I've never kind of been good at flirting that much, even when we were seeing each other, but he's really good at it. So he's been really good at like making sure that we're flirting, and also that when we do like we play fight as well, which is real, like it feels a bit juvenile, but we do play fight the odd time, because it just brings the lightness back into the situation. You don't want to be holding resentments and giving each other the silent treatment, which I can be guilty of myself, because I am suffering at the moment with postpartum anxiety, which I've never had a huge problem with anxiety in my life before. So this is also a whole new thing. I don't even know how to put it into words. It's a whole new chapter in my life that I've been experiencing, because I've never dealt with it before. It can manifest sometimes into postpartum rage. So it's really good that he's able to like bring me out of that and bring me back, like ground me in a way where I'm not just fucking, you know, being angry all the time. It's nice to, he hears me, like it's nice being heard, and he understands me, and he always apologizes for anything he's been doing wrong, but at the same time he's able to like ground me and bring me back into the room. Someone asked how to feel confident and sexy when sleeping with someone new. I think a huge thing, and what I wish I told myself when I was younger, and I was kind of sleeping around. I have gone through phases, like when I come out of relationships, being like, oh, I'm gonna have loads of sex, I'm gonna be sexing it up. I just wish I asked myself more, do I actually want to have sex with this person? Am I enjoying myself? And that's a huge thing with feeling confident in sex, is like, I always feel confident when, you know, when you're initiating the sex because you genuinely want to have sex with the person. It's not like they've initiated it and you're like, okay, quick, I have to put on this amazing performance now, even if you're not 100% interested in it. So I think a huge thing is like, only have sex when you're 100% feeling comfortable and you try to initiate it first, because it kind of like, in a power play sort of way, it's giving you the power to control the situation. And also keep asking yourself, are you enjoying it? Because most of the time you will enjoy yourself a lot more if you are feeling sexy, if your partner that you're having sex with is making you feel sexy, but also if you're telling yourself you're sexy to yourself, you're more likely to relax in the situation, be at a higher chance of actually orgasming, even though that's not the be all and end all of sex, but still it is a nice little reward at the end of the hard work you put in. Advice: WLW sex when you're both new to it. This is really hard as well, because a lot of like mainstream porn sex, mainstream woman with woman sex is completely unrealistic. It's just like vicious scissoring. And I remember when I was a teenager and all I could watch was WLW porn. And I was using the bad websites, the fucking terrible ones where they're clear, like it's just exploitative and fucking horrible. I think I was genuinely a bit traumatized and repulsed at sex, and it turned me off for a while because I was like, oh, I want to explore my body, I'm feeling a bit like I'm getting the tingles, I want to pleasure myself. But then watching that, I was like, ew. So then I just started using my imagination from that point onwards, because like, this is hard. I actually didn't understand how people would watch it, and I always thought that I was a prude, and I was like, is there something wrong with me? Maybe I'm asexual because I actually, anytime I even think about it, I'm like, that is making me feel dirty, you know? And maybe it could have been to do with the shame, but also it's just that it's completely unrealistic. And then when I actually had sex with a girl for the first time, I was like, oh, this is what it's actually passionate, nice, intimate and romantic. It's not like fucking horrible. If you are having a hard time finding inspiration, or like if you're new to it, it is so scary because it's kind of more obvious and straightforward how to have sex with a man. It's like, if I ride on this dick, he's gonna have an orgasm. With women, there's a lot more that goes into it. Like 80% of the foreplay is like not even on the vulva, if that makes sense, with having sex. Like trying to pleasure a woman, if you think about it, you know, kissing the inside of the thighs, or like sucking their earlobe, or breathing down their neck, or massaging. It's all these other things that go into it. Like a lot of the foreplay is not even to do with, this is all before you've even touched down there. There is courses on Beducated, on WLW sex, if you are interested, because obviously I can't go into that much detail on this on YouTube. There's not much I can do right now, and as well, it is different to every couple and different to every person. But I found that, for myself anyway, a lot of foreplay that goes into pleasure is not even to do with sex, like what's the textbook definition of what sex is. From my friends' experience who've only come out later in life, you're basically re-virginized, because if you just started exploring your sexuality and you've only ever had sex with men from this point, you're kind of like starting over again, and it's the same as like being a virgin. You don't know much about sex, so you have to cut yourself a little bit of slack, and like give yourself that leniency and tell yourself, I don't need to know everything. I don't need to know everything right now, and it shouldn't be expected of you either. And I find that women as well are a lot more understanding if you are not that experienced. They'll kind of like go through the process with you and you'll learn together. I wouldn't be so hard on yourself, and you're going to learn along the way, especially in terms of what you like and what your partners are interested in. You will learn along the way. I always feel a bit predatory going up to girls. I'm a girl in the club, but it's easy for men. Don't be, because I always found it back in my day when I went to clubs, I found it much more flattering when a girl was hitting on you, because you know how much courage it takes to even take the risk and the chance to try it on with someone, even if you're unsure of like whether they're interested in or not. It takes such fucking bravery to do that in the first place. So it was always flattering. And even if you're not gay and someone of the same sex is trying it on with you, like, it's still a compliment, because you're like, this person thinks I'm good looking and hot enough to have sex. What you're doing does take a lot of bravery and courage. Go for what you want, because otherwise no one's going to do it for for you. That's something you have to do for yourself. Step out of your comfort zone and try it on with people. Worst comes to worst, they're not gay and you've made a new friend. And the only reason it's easy for men is because they're fucking delusional. So you're just a bit more of a self-aware queen, and you understand the boundaries that people have, and you understand consent. So that's why you're worrying a bit more than a man would when they're trying it on with a woman. And you even having the awareness of feeling predatory or being anxious about feeling being perceived as predatory just goes to show that you're not at all, and proves the point that you're probably not a predator whatsoever. How to give good head. On Beducated, there is a course, there is a blowjob course. I did it once over a year ago. It really does work. It really does the job. Now I'm just too lazy. Like, that is, I know that I'd be really good at giving a head if I did it, but I'm actually just too lazy, and that's the end of it. And I thought I was making up all these things. I was like, oh, I don't want to be forced into something I don't want to do. I don't want to be pressured into doing anything. But I was like, I'm just lazy. Sometimes I think about it in my head. I'm like, oh, I'd love to give head right now, but I'm just not arsed. And really, I actually don't know how people have the energy to do it. And maybe if I get a full night's sleep, I will be able to give head, but because I will be good at it. I know what I'm doing, but also I'm just not, I'm too lazy. Vaginal dryness tips due to meds. Okay, I went through a phase of dry vagina when I was pregnant. It was due to the fact that, well, obviously my hormones were changing. I'm like obsessed with coconut. It's like a problem. I'm obsessed with coconut oil, and I think I've talked about it in a video before. I actually do think it cures so much. Like oil pulling for your gums and everything. Like, it literally helps everything. Like, you know the way you do coconut oil masks in your hair? I did them so much when I had peroxide bleached hair, and it really helped with the split ends. I keep it in overnight. I don't know if this is, I don't want to get in trouble with any gynecologist if anyone is an actual health professional that watches me, but like, it's way better than putting those chemicals, you know, the fucking, the sweet smelling chemicals and shit that people put up their vaginas. It's definitely better than that because it's natural. Coconut oil masks on your vagina, just rub it in, make sure you're getting into the crevices. And I did read in the Vagina Bible, the author of that is a gynecologist, and she does recommend coconut oil for menopausal vaginas, because after you go through menopause your vagina dries out a little bit. She does recommend coconut oil, so I'm taking it from that, and that was like it was reassuring me that I was doing an okay job. But I did put coconut oil, like my vagina was peeling, like the actual inside of my labia minora were peeling. Like, it wasn't the pubic hair part, it was the actual inside. Anyway, I did coconut oil masks on my vagina, and that seemed to and that seemed to help. Don't feel shame about using lube. I feel like there's a whole thing where women feel shame for using lube because, or people with vulvas feel shame for feeling lube because they feel like they should be pouring waterfall wet all the time, or it just means that you're not like attracted enough to the person. Like, that is not the case at all. It's not the fucking equivalent. Like, lube is not the the vulva equivalent of taking a Viagra. It's just completely different, but it has like the same stigmatism attached to it as Viagra does for some reason. You will damage your vagina if you're having sex dry, or if you're having sex raw and dry, you will hurt your vagina and you're more likely to get thrush and other bad things. So don't be ashamed to use lube. You're gonna have a better experience. You're more likely to orgasm. You're gonna be more comfortable. You're less likely to fucking rip your vagina or whatever the fuck is gonna happen. So just make sure that you're using like a nice natural lube. It doesn't have to be a weird like strawberry scented glitter bomb like lush fucking thing, but just like anything. Now, you can use coconut oil if you're not using condoms, but don't use any oil-based lubricants if you're using condoms, because it's more likely to break and rip. I have made that mistake before. When I drank a lot more water and the coconut oil masks on my vagina, because it can be really, like, it gets itchy and real uncomfortable if you have dry vagina and you're not looking after yourself. Like, think of it as the same as having dry cracked lips, your face lips. If you kind of just leave it to dry and aren't helping it, it's just going to get worse and worse, and they're going to start peeling and get cracked and all. So just make sure that you're looking after yourself the same way you would in any visible part of your body. How to learn to love your body and sex after trauma. Birth is a traumatic experience. Anyone who has given birth will agree with me. So it is a whole new, and because you have a whole new body, like new boobs, new vagina, it's something you physically have to get used to as well. So I can speak on that sense. I can see to the sense when I was 17 and I went through a traumatic experience as well, and I had to relearn to love my body. I felt ashamed when anytime I had sex with my abuser, I would feel shame for having an orgasm, and then thereafter for a long time, even after we broke up, I was still feeling shame and guilt because I attached this feeling of like feeling pleasure with feeling like I shouldn't be with this person, and this person makes me feel scared and horrible. So it took me a long time to like recover from that. It definitely damaged my relationship that I was in in immediately after the abusive one. So I found that I should have taken that time with just being alone, and the year and a half I spent healing before I got with Jason was really paramount in my road to recovery, I suppose, because like spending a lot of time naked with my own body, especially being in lockdown, I got to like actually listen to my own thoughts, hug myself, explore my body. Like I used to there was another question on how to, if you can bring spirituality into sex. I used to like light candles around the room and play binaural beats while I was masturbating to like manifest while I was orgasming. I'm not going to say it didn't work. If you want to do that, even if the manifestations don't come true, like you're still, that is like a part of self-care. You're still being kind to yourself in a way that you're allowing yourself to enjoy it, and it's like you're recognizing it as an act of self-care. It's not just like you've woken up in the middle of the night and you're a bit horny so you're gonna whack one out. It's like you're putting effort into yourself in the same way that you would allow yourself to have a bath and a face mask because you know you need to unwind. Actually physically putting the acts outside of just the act of masturbating. Not that there's anything wrong with just masturbating on its own, obviously that's fine too, but if you're like putting in all the effort outside of that, like playing nice music, having candles lit, having a nice scent, maybe burning some incense, and you can have a mirror in front of you if you want to watch yourself, but like you don't need to do all of those things. But I found that really helped me get in tune with myself and my body before I was able to get into a relationship. Not that I'm 100% healed or 100% perfect all the time. Obviously I do have there's a bit of fucked upness in me just like everyone else, but I did think that helped me heal from that trauma a lot more. And I do find that now that I'm getting more comfortable in my body, and it's like if it is warm, being naked and being comfortable being naked and looking at myself in the mirror or walking around naked, or just like recognizing that your body does so much. So like if I'm naked around my house and like hanging up laundry or doing cooking, you can actually see your body for what it is because it's not masked by all these clothes. I don't know if this makes any sense, but if I lived in the middle of nowhere, I think I would actually like lie down in the grass on my back naked, just to be like, my whole body is touching grass right now. This is me going back into the earth and me getting in tune with myself and like where I've come from, and I'm planting myself like a seed and growing like a flower. You have to recognize your body for a vessel and the amount of amazing functional things that it does outside of just being like a sex object. It's especially probably important for women to be in tune with your body and see it just outside as like being a whole. To walk around naked is like to desensitize yourself from just seeing yourself as a sexual object. I think that really helped me dealing from sexual trauma as well, because it was like I can see myself naked and know that I'm not just used for sex. I'm like, I can go for a run if I want to. I can do jumping jacks right now. I can do sit-ups. I get to eat and I can meditate and I can do yoga and I can sleep. I can carry a child and I can birth a child and I can feed a child, all from my body. And that really helped me heal because I know how powerful that I am. My innate ability to like actually grow life surpasses all the worries that I have outside of that. How to stop crying after hookups? Okay, me?